Hello, my name's John Beaufoy. I'm a senior lecturer on the Product and Industrial Design course here at the University of Hertfordshire. I'm here today just to try and give you some bits of advice and also to tell you what we're looking for in a portfolio of a work when you arrive for interview here, and what you can expect from the interview, if you like. So as it's a product and industrial design course, we're looking for a broad range of designed work, and that can exist over a number of different mediums. So we would have expected you to have done some photography work, some graphic design work, some painting work, some sketching and drawing, and also along with some kind of project that shows that you have completed a product design project from beginning to end. So, and this could be in any kind of area, but typically you might have done something where you found a problem within the home, or you've asked a client, maybe your parents, if there was something they felt needed redesigning. So this could be something like a kitchen implement, it could be a space within the house, it could be an interior project as well. And I guess it's really just to give yourself a design issue or a design problem, or for that to form the fundamentals of a design brief. And what we would expect to see then, I normally like to see one piece of project work from beginning to end. So I'll be looking for some research and how you've investigated the problem. You might have tried to have looked for how you might solve it in different ways. You might even want to establish an interview with the person who the problem has been designed to be solved for. Or it might be that you need to do some peripheral work around what the issue is. So for instance, if you were designing a kitchen implement or some new device to go into the bathroom or the kitchen, you might want to research currently designed objects within that world. We then expect to see some development sketches and some design ideas, and usually more than one or two. We quite like to see sort of pages of sort of sketch work, and sketch work can be rough sketches, or it can be kind of well-developed sketches. I've got a few sketches here that I think are very good, and don't worry if you're not quite at this standard at the moment. We'll soon have you heading towards this kind of work when you're actually with us here on the course. But typically, what we kind of want you to do is to sketch freely and to draw freely without really using rulers. What we tend to find is when people use rulers, they tend not to do as much work. What we try and encourage is a sort of freer approach to actually getting your ideas down on paper and trying to communicate them visually to the viewer. And this next page of sketches I wanted to show, I think, does that quite well. So quite a lot of ideas, and these can be drawn larger to begin with, or they can be drawn as a page of ideas. And this project was looking at some of the issues around personal luggage transport, and lots of ideas down on the page initially for evaluation. So we quite like to see that development of where your thinking is as well. And then typically you might take some of those ideas forward to final presentation drawings. And what we do like to see is a combination of hand drawing skills, and then you might take some of those final design ideas into a computer aided drawing package. And we use SolidWorks here at university. We also have Rhino, but equally, if you've used something like SketchUp or you've used some other CAD drawing package, any kind of experience of using those drawing tools will help you when you learn the more professional, in-depth packages here that we teach. The other things that we're kind of looking for as well is prototypes and models. So if you've made a working model or looks like model of your design ideas. That's going to help you to sort of communicate the shape and the form, or in many cases how the idea actually works. So if you've done any kind of prototypes, or maybe you've made a piece of furniture as part of your design project, then we'd be quite interested to see that. If it's really, really big, then obviously don't bring in a huge chair or a sofa, but take some photographs of it. And we'd quite like to know how you made it and what the processes were involved in your sort of production of this prototype or model. So the other thing I would say is that when you put your work in a portfolio, it's much easier to look through an A3 or an A2 folder than it is to look through a huge A1 folder. So think about what work you're going to present. Personally, and I know the other tutors on our course feel this as well, we would rather see 1 or 2 projects where you can talk from the beginning to the end, rather than 15 projects where you've kind of adopted the same process. So 1 or 2 projects where you've gone through if you like, an observation process, a research process, some design development, and then you've actually come up with a final design. And if you've got a model or some made object that goes with that, that's really, if you like, the core skills of what we're looking for anyone coming on to the course. Obviously supporting that, any painting work you've done, photography work, graphic design work is always complementary to product design work. So any projects you've done, there are 1 or 2, again, projects where you've gone through a sort of a research, concept, development and design process would be advantageous. It's interesting to see some sketch work and photography and painting work, but don't let that dominate the folio. I would much prefer to see more work in the product design and making arena as well. And I'd say that try and tailor your portfolio to be about 15 minutes worth of talking material is how I would think about the length or what should go in there. The other thing that's quite important is if you have completed any sort of contextual studies or art history or design history projects, 1 or 2 pages that show your, if you like, engagement with the wider world or the wider community of what goes on in product design. If you've referenced something you feel particularly strongly about, that's always interesting to hear about. If you have a favourite piece of design or a favourite designer or even a favourite design consultancy, if you can name any of those, but really just a piece of product design that you can talk about that you find inspiring or you think has been particularly useful, and you could reference this, any piece of product design from around the world. Personally, it's quite nice to hear about pieces of design that have helped people around the world, particularly the more needy communities or more poverty-stricken societies in the world. If you can reference any ways that product designers or product design has helped resolve issues in the world, that's always very interesting for us to hear about during your interview. Just to finish off then, I think on top of all of that, the only other thing I could say that we're really looking for is that, if you're enthusiastic about what you do and you're enthusiastic about design and you really want to do that as your career, then obviously that's really important as well. I think that's probably 50% of what we're looking for is an aptitude and an enthusiasm for the subject. So when you arrive for interview, what's going to happen? Well, there'll be a few other people here as well. So we'll show you around our studio, and you will be able to speak to 1 or 2 of the students that are working in here. You can talk to them about the course. And what we'll do then, we'll sit down with you for between usually about 10 and 15 minutes, And how it will work is we'll open up your portfolio. We'll have already had a quick look through it prior to you coming in to be interviewed. You'll be interviewed individually. And after we've had a look through your folio, what we'll do then is we'll sit down with you, and I'll probably pick on one or two of the design projects in your portfolio, and I'll just ask you just to talk through what your design process is. There's no trick questions. I won't be catching you out. Or just want to know how you went about carrying out your design process, how you solved the issue, how you arrived at your final design, and really just what your process of working was. I then might ask you a few questions about what your interest is in product design, what area you're interested in working, and if you have any particular bits of the design world that you're more enthusiastic about, or why you want to be on the course. And then towards the end of the interview, we'll allow you some time to ask us some questions about the university, what the facilities are, anything that you don't already understand from maybe the open day you've been to, or any of the course literature that you've had. And then we'll come to the end of the interview. We might ask you one or two other questions, but really it's just for you to talk through your portfolio in a relaxed and formal manner for about 15 minutes. We look forward to seeing you on one of our open days or at interview.